Hello, it's your financial friend Maggie. Welcome to the Inside Out Money podcast. Okay. Hey, Erica.
Hey, Maggie.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Well, I just woke up from a nap. You know, I'm a little tired.
Oh, this is retired life.
I know, retired life. I consider it a skill to be able to like fall asleep in a room where other people are around, you know? And like, I was just like on the couch with the kids and I was just like, I'm just going to close my eyes for a second. Okay. We are not talking about sleeping today. Well, we kind of are, because if you're sleeping on like not paying attention to some of your bills, they might have slowly crept up on you. And we're going to talk about how you can save hundreds, if not thousands. But first, welcome to Inside Out Money. This is not a sleep podcast, but that actually would be helpful for me these days. This is a personal finance podcast focused on redefining wealth from the inside out. Every week, I speak with a rotating set of co-hosts about a different financial topic to help you improve your financial mindset and tactics. Today, we've got co-host Erica here, and we're going to talk about how you can save. I'm going to go with thousands because I did something that just saved thousands, but at the very least hundreds, at the most thousands, on your utility bills, on your insurance bills, on your cell phone bills, on those bills. Pay your medical bill. What's that song? Isn't there like an old TLC?
Close. It's Destiny's Child.
Oh, right.
But yes.
But what's is it? Are they saying bills or some
bills,
other? Oh, right.
Automobiles.
Get it. What are the other bills they're paying?
I mean, who isn't paying tons of bills? Like,
True.
Destiny's Child was onto something, and we are going to pick that up and run with it.
I wish we could afford to pay the rights to play a little bit of that song, but you're just going to have to keep singing it. I think we just
did with our sweet, sweet voices.
Okay, so I don't know if we're going to help you on your automobiles, but we're definitely going to help you on your telephone bills. And we recently just did an expense review episode, actually, and we heard like an example where, Erica, you were paying like more than twice what some of us are paying for cell phone bills in your family. And we talked about, we each shared like in that expense review part 2, we went into details about like what we're paying for car insurance and homeowners insurance. And a few of us had some realizations that we're maybe paying a little bit too much. And a few of us, myself included. And we're going to talk about some very, very tactical things you can do, like teach you more about what actually is and isn't negotiable, and then some very tactical and specific ideas that you can do. And we are going to end with some specific scripts of like what you should say when you reach out to some of these companies that will help get you to the quickest, best price you're going to get. Does this sound exciting to you?
This sounds exciting to me because this all feels overwhelming until you do it and you get that, A, you're saving money.
Yeah.
And then B, you're like, I feel like I just beat the system somehow.
Yeah. You feel like you won.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
You win at bills.
It is the bill. You remember the Game of Life?
Sure do.
Yeah. We should play that. I still have it.
We played it recently.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I feel like you're winning at the Game of Life or the Game of Bills, which actually would be a great game that we should invent. Just called. I don't know that it would sell well because people would be like, that sounds lame. Okay. So I think there are a lot of people that don't realize that you are often paying a premium for staying with the same vendors for so long. Companies actually spend hundreds of dollars to acquire new customers, but very little to keep existing customers. It is unfortunate. Some people call it the loyalty tax. I think of that even when you think about like when you stay at a company for too long, you often are paying a loyalty tax to the fact that you might be, the least paid person there if you've been there for a really long time, because people who hopped companies often made more money faster and got bigger increases. And I remember always being like, but this isn't fair. Even as a team manager and a leader, I would see me having to pay and recruit somebody new more than an existing person who I valued and who had great loyalty. And I was like, and often we would make it right. We would like, if we brought in someone else higher, we would do like, I forgot what it was called. I've been out of the game for too long, but we do like an equity increase essentially for the other person, but not always. And it always like broke my heart to see somebody who was the most loyal and a good, solid person that we knew we could count on, and then pay some like unknown entity way more money to come in and do the exact same job.
You're talking to someone who spent 13 years at the same company and was told she was compensated fairly until she left and then got a 50% increase in salary.
I forgot about that. That is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as good as it felt to get that 50% increase in salary, you then realize like too little too late, and like how annoying that the new company that didn't know you from anyone was willing to take a bet on you, and your old company knew you and claimed they valued you. And, so there's a lot of reasons, but the reality is that is how the world works. And that is often how companies and vendors work. There's research that Consumer Reports did last year that shows that simply switching your cell phone provider can save the average family up to $500 a year. And across all categories like insurance, internet, utilities, proactive negotiation can save households over $2,200 annually. That's real money. And that's also like a dopamine hit.
So I used to do this because we used to have Xfinity because it was the main provider in Portland. Like they just had a monopoly on the area. So it was like I could just deal with it and pay more to actually get service that works. And because of one of your earlier podcasts, Maggie, I did call like once a year as soon as I knew my rates were going to go up, and I'd call and renegotiate and threaten to cancel. And they'd always say, well, what can we do to keep you? And they'd lower my rates. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, this year I go to cancel. I think it was actually last year, and I just got too overwhelmed by other things to follow through on it. They took away the number that I used to call, and they had no chat feature. They made it harder to do that.
Yeah.
So we tried to renegotiate by logging into my account and going in through some portal that way. And it kept asking me to reset my password. And I'd do that. And then I'd log in, and then it would say, well, you need to reset your password. And we did that about 5 times. I was like, you know what? This is enough for me to switch. This is the loyalty game. They're making it so hard for customers to even go into their own accounts. Like, this is fine. I'll just go. I went to T-Mobile. I got a better deal, better internet, and it was really easy. And then I just messaged somehow through some portal that was still hidden on the dark web. I messaged Xfinity, was like, I'm canceling. And they're like, oh, what can we do to keep you? I'm like, too little, too late, bruh.
Yeah, bruh. I hope you threw the bruh in there too.
Yep, that chatbot really appreciated it.
That chatbot was like, brah? What is a bra? Why is this person talking about lingerie now? Okay, so that's actually a good segue. Not lingerie, but your reference to Xfinity and how they made it. They made it harder for you to switch, because there's an Erica I once knew where as soon as they asked you to like reset your password, you'd be like, never mind, I'm just going to keep paying this amount. So I love that you're like fighting the man now, and you're like, no, joke's on you, I'm out.
Yeah, I wasn't about to mess around. Like, you made me reset my password 18 times and you still won't let me into my damn account. Like, here we go.
Yeah, watch this. So I like your fight is my point.
Thank you.
There's this concept I recently read about called return on hassle, which is like different than return on investment. It's the concept of like, you don't have to optimize and negotiate everything. And you actually should think about the highest return on your mental energy. And I actually want to do a whole episode on this coming soon. But in the meantime, I would say it's an interesting point. I personally think with some of these bills, the return on hassle is high in the sense that these are ongoing bills, right? So you put a little bit of work into it and you're going to get an ongoing savings every single month for like years to come. And a 20-minute phone call could yield 400 plus in annual savings. And so, that's a high return on hassle. But I do think you need to think about the things where the amount of time you put into something, should have some sort of return on it, and what your potential savings are going to be and all of that. So it's just something to think about. What we really want to do and get into quickly, and I'm proud of us for getting into this so quickly, Erica, is we really want to focus on some specific tactics, and then we will get into some very specific scripts that you guys can follow. So the first one is what you tried to do, Erica, which is just call and ask. It's one of the most simple ones. Like, right, I've actually like saved the Comcast number before. And back when we had Comcast internet, you remember that? It's like a throwback to Atlanta.
Yeah. Wasn't Atlanta one? Did it start there?
Yeah, Comcast. I don't know if they started in Atlanta, but I feel like, I'm sure they're like all around actually. I just didn't know if they were in Oregon specifically. So.
Well, that's what Xfinity is.
Oh, you're right. Never mind. Not a good throwback. I'm just going to name like these billion-dollar companies that are actually everywhere.
Have you ever heard of McDonald's?
Starbucks. Starbucks. Have you ever been?
We call it Buc-ee's here.
Oh, really? I like it. I think when I hear of Buc-ee's, I think of Buc-ee's, though. Do you
Oh,
know what-
yeah,
you
yeah.
know- yeah. Right.
Yeah. I guess my friend used to call it trendy Buc-ee's because they opened this like fancy wine bar Starbucks near our office. So I've just stuck with Buc-ee's. By we, I mean it's like me and this 73-year-old
Two other
man.
people.
Yeah, two of us total.
Okay, so this strategy is to just call and ask. I think this works well for cell phones, for utility bills. It can work well for some different subscription services. I say call and ask, but this might be call and ask or click and ask. I'm going to combine those 2 points, right? Because it might be similar to how you tried to call and you had to go do it online. But the idea is you call and you don't just ask, but you actually imply you're going to cancel, right? You can ask, but I think that the sweet spot is you actually need to go through the motions to cancel. You can directly just ask for the retention department, but if you call and basically say, you know, I've got a competitive rate, another company has sent me a postcard in the mail and it's $20 cheaper than what I'm paying this, with you guys per month. When you call and say that, and a lot of times they'll say like, oh, I really can't do anything. Sorry, you're on our best rate. Even though they will have rates where new customers, they will give a better introductory rate to than an existing customer. And they'll admit that on the phone, but they say, but I can't give you that because you're an existing customer. And you're like, well, that sounds ridiculous. And there's no point in arguing with that person. They likely do not have the authority to give you the discount. You need to get to the next level, which is when you say, okay, cool, I understand. Well, given that, I would like to cancel this service. And when you say that, they will normally send you to a different department, which internally is normally known as their retention department. It's a different set of people on the phone. They have different abilities and authority to offer you different offers. And look, if I feel like there's people who have been like, oh, but I don't want to cancel if that's not. And I'm like, you don't have to. You can always just hang up at any point and you haven't done anything, right? And so you can end the entire discussion whenever you want. You don't even have to like fumble your way out of it. Just pretend you got disconnected or pretend you decided to hang up at any random time. It doesn't matter.
If you get disconnected and you're calling to negotiate a cell phone or internet bill, you can blame it on them. Be like, this is why.
This is it, right? And I guarantee you they are not going to call you back.
Yeah.
And even if they do, it's like, it doesn't matter. You could it's like the easiest breakup call in the world, right? But the point is, that's fine. You might be bluffing. You might say, but I don't actually want to cancel. It doesn't matter. You need to pretend like you want to cancel, stay strong, stick with it until the very end.
So yeah, and a lot of companies do have these chat features that are really handy. So like I also do this about once a year with the New York Times.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Where, you pay $4 a week for the year and then it goes up to like, I don't know, $52 a week. It jumps
the regular price.
It jumps to a crazy amount, which like my dad has been paying this whole time. Like, give me your phone. Let me negotiate this for you. But it's almost as if they're like waiting for people to do this. I'm like, oh, I'm going to cancel. It's too expensive. Like, let me see what I can do about this. And they're like, what do you think about this? I'm like, that's too much money. And they're like they'll start like $12 a week. They're like, how about $8? And I get to where like, all right, I'll tack on inflation here. But it's almost like they're waiting for people to do this because a lot of people are just like, well, I don't know how to cancel, which is probably some people who aren't as tech savvy or don't want to take the time. So they're taking advantage of you not being willing to do this. So help other people, like especially parents who are probably paying too much and or friends, just be like, I'll do this for you. It'll take 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point of like help your family and friends on this. It can be like a fun game, Next time you're like having drinks with a friend or you're out with friends, be like, hey, let's call somebody's cell phone company and see if we can get a cheaper price. Or hey, like they'll be like, hey, everybody, what are you guys paying for Audible? Like watch this. And to your point, Erica, those things are already built into the system. They've built in like marketing flows to where if someone cancels, they're like, give this type of person this offer to try to keep them. And so Audible is another great example. If you ever have Audible and then you go to cancel, they will immediately offer you a cheaper rate. Or, and I think this is an important thing to remember, actually cancel. Go through the final process, because some companies have offers that they will give you to entice you to come back after you've canceled. So for something like Audible, because you can't. I mean, not that you can't, but like it's hard to cancel your cell phone or your internet fully, right? You can't you want to go through the motions to pretend you're going to cancel right up till the very end. And if the best thing they'll offer you is $5 off, you take it and you move on, which is what I do almost every year with my internet company. But with something like Audible, where you could go a month without it, or even certain streaming services like Hulu and certain ones will do this, cancel it. I guarantee you within the next like minute to week, you will get an offer, or month sometimes. You'll get an offer for Audible for like 3 months at $4.95 at like a third of the price.
Mhm.
And companies, this is part of their pricing strategy, right? Like they have what's sometimes called like first degree pricing, which is, the absolute maximum, the highest price that they'll just, that you'll see. It's the marketed price that you often see. And then they have all these other degrees of pricing, which is what they're trying to, do to retain a customer. And again, a lot of companies do have rates where they will offer a significantly lower price to get a new customer or to retain a previous customer. So again, you want to pretend to cancel and you want to see what they're willing to offer you. Sometimes you don't even, again, even when I use that Audible example, you can just see what happens. You don't need to finally hit the cancel button. I went to cancel Bolden yesterday. I was actually recording an episode with Andrew, and we were talking about Bolden versus Projection Lab. And I went to cancel it because I was like, I don't want to forget to cancel it. And right away in the screen, they immediately offered me a better price. And I was
creepy.
like, oh, I know.
Creepy.
I was like, yeah. So I was like, so I could have, like, why didn't you offer me this up front? Anyways, it is what it is. You're not going to change how these companies operate, but you do need to be a more discerning customer. And on that note, here's an example of an actual script you can use if you call a company. So you can say, "Hi, Erica. I was just reviewing my monthly expenses and I noticed that my bill has crept up by $30 a month over the last, however many months. I've been a loyal customer of Xfinity for 10 years, but I see that new customers are actually being given an offer of XYZ to join versus I'm paying $30 more a month." Or you could say, I got a competitive offer for Google Fiber and it's X dollars a month or whatever it is. And say, I'd really like to stay with you guys and be loyal and avoid the hassle of switching. What can you do to help get me to a rate closer to that promotional price that I'm being marketed from your competitor?
I would just like to state for the listener that I suggested we act this out with accents, and Maggie just blatantly ignored that.
Did you really suggest that?
Don't you see it next to the script? Let's act this out with accents.
Oh my God, I just saw that. That would be like terribly offensive, wouldn't it?
We'll just do like a Southern accent.
Oh, okay. Just any accent. Okay.
Any accent.
Well, why don't you get started and be Erica from the South?
Well,
what if we offend Southern
No, I'm not
people?
Erica. I'm Tina McDougal. But
Oh, okay.
we are from the South. We are Southern.
But we don't have a Southern accent.
Well,
Okay, I like it.
I don't know.
I missed that, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I missed that note.
Well, we can continue. I'll get over this.
I do think it is an important reminder on all of these fronts. You need to be kind here. Be the person that representative wants to help, right? So when they say they can't do anything, you say like, look, I totally get it. Your hands might be tied here, but I just can't afford this anymore, right? And again, you can say whatever you want. You can say you just lost your job if that's true. I mean, I'm not suggesting you lie here, by the way, but if you're stressed about money and you could say that. It doesn't matter what your reasoning are. It's probably not going to impact what happens, but be real, be authentic, be incredibly kind. Don't call and be rude and angry. Like that's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get you any further. And it's just not necessary, right? These people are doing their jobs. And that, again, that first person that answers that call often isn't the one who's got the authority to give you a discount. So you can very quickly, if they say they can't do anything, say, look, I get it. I understand. Can you please transfer me to the cancellation department? I'd like to cancel. Or you could say, is there anyone else I could speak to? Is there a manager that I could speak to that has the ability to continue this discussion with me if they claim that they just don't have the authority to give discounts or something. You say, that's great. I really appreciate your help. Is there someone else I could speak to?
One thing I like to do or have done in the past, if I am on a chat feature, I like to, and this will probably not be a surprise to anyone since I suggested we act this out with accents, Tina McDougal, I will just kind of put on like a character, like just a really wacky person in the chat, and just it kind of takes the edge off of like, you want something, you're invested in an outcome, but to your point,
a little bit
Maggie,
of role playing,
but you don't want to be mean to someone. So I just act like so wacky And then like I use it as like, hey, this was like an improv bit that I'm going to then save the chat and share with my friends for a good laugh afterwards.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Whatever you got to do to make it fun, you know. Erica,
yeah.
This concept came up at Camp FI, and then it made me like want to research some books on this topic. So I read the book Play: How It Shapes the Brain, Opens the Imagination, and Invigorates the Soul. And I feel like you are really good at the concept of play. And like what you just said is a great example of just like, we don't need to be so serious all the time. Like you're not being rude. You're kind of being silly and like quirky, right, in that chat. And like, if that makes it fun for you, and I'm sure that person got a little chuckle out of it too, right? Go for it, right? Who cares? Like, this doesn't have to be a super serious, like tied up with a suit on and, discussion.
Yeah, we're all humans. We're all trying to just like save a buck at the end of the day. And so are these people who are on the other end of this call, like you said, like they're not the person probably who's going to be making the decision, but they're the gatekeeper and they're almost just as important. So you want to be nice to them.
And I think it's a good reminder of like, the first strategy we just talked about is to call or click and just ask for a different price. I don't use the term negotiate here because I don't think that's the right use of the term negotiate. Most of these prices are not negotiable in the sense that the person you're speaking to does not have a lot of individual authority to give like me versus Erica a different price. Like it's not like we're buying a car on the lot here, right? Or it's not like I'm, negotiating with somebody that's like selling me, on Facebook Marketplace. Like they can decide in that transaction exactly what they want to do. Most of these companies have different pricing tiers and offer structures, and they have an amount that's as high as they're able to go in terms of like what they offer you in terms of a discount. So you could say you're negotiating in the sense that you're trying to get to their best offer, or their lowest price, I guess. But it's like the price of Netflix is not negotiable. You can't like email the CEO of Netflix and be like, well, how about I pay you $2.99 a month? They have an ad-free option and it's less, right? Like, and they have a retention offer and it's at this amount, and you're not going to like convince them to change it tomorrow.
Although I don't know how this applies to bills and what we're talking about, so it might. So it's worth it to kind of share with someone. But I was traveling for work with a colleague once, and we got to our gate and they closed the door on us with our plane still sitting there, and we missed our connection. We're like, we're right here and the plane is still at the gate. They're like, oh, nope, sorry. And we're like, we were delayed. Like you knew we were coming. So it was very frustrating.
Yeah.
So we emailed, I think it was Delta. We emailed Delta, or I did, and was like, hey, this is what happened to me. Like, is there anything you can do to make up for this? Like, I'm a frequent flyer, blah, blah, blah. Like, yep, here's 2,500 miles. I was like, oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sent it to my colleague. He forwarded the same email that I got and said, my friend received this. Would you be willing to comp me? They gave him 5,000.
Was he a different tier than you?
I don't think so.
Okay. Wait, did you go back and say like, y'all gave my friend 5,000?
Yeah, I was like, hold on. Why'd y'all give him 5,000 and you gave me, and he used my email for reference?
Because he's a man.
That's what I figured.
Just kidding.
But it might be worth it to like share that with someone else. Like if you guys are both negotiating, see what, like you talk about this stuff. Like if Maggie gets like, a $4 a week New York Times discount versus like I'm at $8.
Well, Erica, that is one of our tips actually, is like ask a friend or neighbor also, right? Like ask them what they're paying for their cell phone. Ask them if they like the coverage. Like we were talking to Liz on the expense review and she was like, or no, it was you actually that was like unsure if you were going to like Visible, right? If it had good coverage in your area. And so it's like, ask some friends who they're using and what they're paying. Ask what they're paying for car insurance, right? Ask someone in a similar type of car in your city. Ask someone like your neighbor. It's really helpful to ask your neighbor what they're paying for homeowners insurance because it's probably a similar sized home. It's less helpful for me to ask Erica what she's paying for homeowners insurance when she's in, a whole different side of the country and a different size home and all of that. And so ask people where it makes sense and compare what you're paying, because that often will give you the data point and the impetus you need to say like, oh, hey, I might actually be overpaying here. Or I'm actually like, everyone else is overpaying and I feel really good about what I'm paying after hearing what everybody else is paying.
After our expense review, I mean, I was like almost a little embarrassed about how much I was paying for cell phone coverage, or my cell phone bill. And so I will at some point switch.
Yeah.
But
who are you with again?
I'm with T-Mobile. So the landlord just switched to Mint.
But I just want to remind you, even if you want to stay with T-Mobile. So T-Mobile, I'm trying to remember. Who's the
They are Mint, if that's what you're looking up.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah, even like, well, two things on T-Mobile. One, you can stay with you can move to like Mint, who is on T-Mobile's network, or you actually can stay with T-Mobile but move to a prepaid cell phone plan. We talk about this in this episode we did on cell phone savings. It's similar to the concept of like these different pricing strategies. It is the exact same. Nothing would change. Nothing would change with your number, which would, you can keep anyways, but nothing would change. You would literally go from like paying at the end of the month to the beginning of the month. You're on a different type of plan that is just a different pricing tier within their company. It is the exact same coverage. And so that's an example of, you don't even have to make a big change that you feel like uncomfortable about because you're unsure about what the quality or the reception is going to be and stuff like that. So I would encourage you to like look into T-Mobile prepaid plans, and you can search it up right now.
I am searching. You just couldn't hear it because
my
keyboard's so slow now. So quiet. Oh, I still get my MLB TV. Okay, I'll look this. Yeah, I got to look this up and compare it to what I have now.
And there's going to be data caps on some of them, but you can get a huge one. The unlimited monthly for prepay is like $45 a month.
Yeah, this is genius.
I should have said that to you before.
Okay, we'll keep going. I'll look into this later.
But on your example, was that Delta? What airline was that example with?
Delta.
Okay, so
you hear that, Delta? Y'all did me wrong.
On your Delta example, as an example, and kind of like my point about negotiation, that person that you were dealing with probably has some sort of like cap, or they have some range that they're allowed to provide for like that type of an issue of a flight delay versus something else. And yeah, they probably made a judgment call. And so they probably start with 2,500, and maybe the other person for whatever reason just starts a little higher, and they're using their own discretion within some sort of framework that Delta has. Another point that is a helpful one, and that Delta one's a good example, is this is where AI can be really helpful, because you can put in your very specific situation. So you can put in that you specifically were like with Delta, that you were at the gate, you had a flight delay from a different Delta flight, and that they didn't let you on, blah, blah, blah. And it will give you a sense of what an average point payout might be. So you would have known if like 2,500 would be low. And then it'll actually sometimes even give you suggestions of what might be a typical average cost for insurance in your area for your size home. And so you can give it like a lot of specificity, and you can ask it to write you a specific script. You can ask it if it thinks you're overpaying based on all the data you gave it. I did this recently with my insurance, and I did this since we recorded our expense review, by the way. I'll share kind of what I've saved on insurance. But as an example, when I put it into AI to ask if I was just like, is this sound about right for like what I'm paying based on my size house in this market? And AI told me it seems like I might be like a little bit high, but not crazy high. But it specifically asked how old my roof was, which I hadn't given it as a data point. And I said, it's really old. It's like over 15 years old. And you actually could also upload your bill, and it would put in like a lot more detail. You don't have to tell it. But I didn't do that. I just kind of gave it a description and a prompt. And it told me one of the reasons I'm probably paying more is because my roof is so old, and that if I had my roof replaced, that would actually dramatically decrease what I'm paying, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it. There's a higher likelihood that I'm going to like request a brand new roof because I don't know, hail or like something else. Versus if I have a brand new roof, it probably does a better job of holding up to storms and other stuff. Who knows? But either way, I didn't really understand or to realize that point about the age of my roof impacting things. Similar to like, I understand that if I've been in a wreck, my car insurance is going to be higher. But I just didn't know that thing about roofs. So AI is another example where, if you aren't quite even sure about what some of the charges in your bills are, it's really easy to like scan in your bill and upload, or take a photo of it and upload it to AI. Again, it's not totally private, if you have like big privacy concerns, but I do not have big privacy concerns about AI like seeing my bill, where my data is probably sold by that company anyways.
Well, let me ask you a question. Since AI asked you about your roof, does that incentivize you to have it replaced sooner rather than later?
Yeah, so AI, it has made me want to get some quotes, because I've already was like kind of on my mind to get it proactively replaced, because my roof is about 17 years old, I think, which is pretty old they sometimes can last longer, but we've had a number of roof leaks, and we've kind of, we have paid to get them fixed, but They haven't been very expensive fixes. If they were, I would have just replaced the roof. But it actually did suggest that I price out and that I get my insurance agent to tell me what the price would be with a new roof so that I could do the like kind of ROI on it might actually be enough of savings to incentivize me to get a new roof proactively versus waiting for, I don't know what I'm waiting for, but like my roof to fall apart and decompose completely.
We'll move on from roofs, but I did just want to point out I Googled what is the longevity of a roof, and it says it typically ranges from 15 to over 100 years.
Over 100? Okay. I always thought it was like 10 to 15.
Well, on the types of materials. So it's dependent on the type of materials. And probably in climate, obviously. But I like how vague that was originally. It's like if someone only reads that, I'm like, oh, I'm so good on my roof. This roof's going to outlive me.
I'm actually typing that into Gemini right now. I said, how long does a roof typically last in Atlanta, Georgia? A shingle roof. Okay. Typically lasts between 15 to 25 years. The specific type of shingle makes a significant difference. Now, who knows if I have a 3-tab shingle or an architectural shingle?
I hope you don't know that off the top of your head. I will be very disappointed. Or a premium
GAF. I don't know, Erica. And I want to go take a picture of my roof and be like, I don't know. You tell me, is this a 3-tab shingle, an architectural shingle, or a premium GAF? I know it's not a premium one that is meant to resist algae. Okay. So I'm excited to share my insurance win. And I'm gonna share it throughout our final tip here, which is you got to shop around for different prices, right? So in addition to calling, clicking, and just asking for a better price, doing some research to ask a friend, neighbor, using AI to help you. The other big tactic here is shopping around on things where, particularly insurance is a good example, and I'm sure there are other categories like this. The prices of insurance are different for different people in different companies. So I remember Liz on the episode she said, oh, USAA is always the cheapest. And I was like, that's not true. I'm not going to like explain this in quite the right way, but every insurance company has actuaries and they have their own like actuarial models of, how they price things for all the different data points of, from life insurance of like, your age, your sex, all these other things go into it. Versus homeowners insurance, the age of your roof. There's all these factors that go into it, right? Have you had any claims in the past? Blah, blah, blah. Every company is a little bit different, right? Like there's a lot of factors where if you're a more expensive customer, you're going to be more expensive at a lot of companies. But there are some nuances. And I'll give an example. We've been with Allstate for a really long time, and we have access to USAA. We moved our life insurance to USAA a while ago, and it was much cheaper. But I have quoted with USAA, who has fantastic reputation for like customer service and everything else. But I've requoted our car insurance, homeowners insurance, and our rental homeowners insurance, which is like a landlord policy. It's a different type of policy. I've quoted all those with USAA like 4 to 5 times over the past 6 or 7 years. And every time Allstate was cheaper combined. So like one of them was cheaper. Like it was like always the car insurance was more, but it was so much more with USAA versus like homeowners was less. The total price of like my bundled insurance plan, it would have cost me to move to USAA. And I was like, well, I've never been unhappy with Allstate's service. I've never actually had a claim either, knock on wood. But I'm like, I'm not going to pay more money to move, even though USAA does have a good reputation. I remember I shopped around with Amica, or is it Amica?
Amica, that's who we have.
Amica. Yeah, and I heard great things about them. And I heard they have good rates and good and all this stuff. But I shopped around with them and they also were more expensive. So I was like, well, I'm going to stay with Allstate. But after our call, the one after our expense review episode, the part 2 where we dug into insurance prices, I was like, and then also I had talked to another friend who has a house that's like twice as big as ours in Brookhaven, and they were paying like less than we were paying for insurance. And I was like, I was like, this isn't right. And so I was like, I'm going to go back and do it again with USAA. And I remember USAA telling me to like call back. They're like, call back next year. Maybe, you never know. And so I did. I reshopped everything. And guess how much money we are saving per year, Erica, across 5 insurance plans. So it's one plan for 2 cars, our house, 2 rental homes, landlord policies, and an umbrella insurance policy that we have. So it's 5 different policies. Guess how much we're saving a year in moving from Allstate to USAA, which I just did last week.
$4,000.
Okay, well, that sounds like really exciting. It's not $4,000. But it is $1,993.
Wow.
And in addition to those savings, I'm actually insured at a higher level on almost every single one of those plans for various reasons. I think at one point we were properly insured, but USAA is like really strict about how much, like they will not let you be underinsured, which I kind of appreciate from an insurance company. And some other insurance companies will let you be. They'll let you pick the amount you want to be insured for your house. USAA will not. They want to validate that it like sounds like the right number based on a bunch of information you put in. And I'm sure there's other companies that do that too, but I had not experienced that with Allstate, I'll put it that way. And so I'm saving money, and if something actually happens, I'm actually insured at a much higher rate, which is great.
That's amazing. That actually is good incentive for me to look into this because our rates have gone up. Amica used to be the cheapest, and Ben learned that. Excuse me, the landlord learned that through talking to people at work, and we hadn't even heard of it. And this was years ago. And we're like, well, it's still the cheapest. And then it went up and like significantly. And we shopped around and he was like, it's not much. He's like, it's still comparable to everything else, but maybe we need to like actually look into making the switch.
Yeah. And you can shop around by going direct to companies that you know are, are well known for having good prices. You can use an independent broker. There are like independent insurance brokers who, I mean, they get a commission off it on their end, but who can help you shop around. Like our friends used a company that I had never heard of before, and I really can't vouch for them because I've not used them, but it's called Openly. And I thought that was their insurance company, but they're really just an insurance broker. They have brokers who basically help you find the best rate. And again, they're getting a cut on that, but you can also, there's a lot of sites. Like I remember using them sometimes. Most of the time it just results in me getting a ton of phone calls, but like Lemonade is a site that I see marketed a lot where you can check prices. They'll do a bunch of checks for you all at once. The other thing is most of the time with insurance, you're not having to put in a massive amount of information anyways. If you can put your VIN in, they already know everything about your car. And then for your house, when you put your address in, they automatically pull in a lot of stuff. And a lot of times they even have tools where they can reference what you're currently insured at. And so they're pulling in a lot of information automatically, and it does save you a lot of time as you're getting these quotes. But I just would highly encourage people to shop around. And there's also this report that when I was kind of researching for this episode that says that insurance rates reset significantly in December, and that just as general, the golden rule should be like reshopping your rates every 12 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good information. It's a good reminder that you do have options.
So if you do work with an insurance broker where you can like send them a quick, or even just the broker you work with, like there was someone at Allstate where I could call somebody, but I always preferred to deal with them via email. And so just to give you another script, you could send a quick email that says, hey, I just received a quote from USAA for the exact same coverage limits. And it's, $2,000 cheaper per year. I've really enjoyed working with Allstate, but I can't ignore this price gap. Is there any way you can rerun my profile for new discounts, like a low mileage credit or a multiple policy bundle, and give me new quotes? Again, they're not going to negotiate. They're not going to like give you $2,000 off because somebody else has a, cheaper rate, but they might try a little harder than they had in the past to look for new discounts and apply different discounts within, again, what they have flexibility to do, which within the insurance business is much more regulated. And, it's not a quote negotiation is not the way I would say it. But again, you might get a broker that's trying a little harder to actually get creative on where you can save money. Like even my mom, I reshopped my mom's insurance and even went back to her current State Farm broker. And when I was talking about leaving, all of a sudden the guy was like, oh, has she done this like 30-minute defensive driving class? And I was like, or it was like a 2-hour class actually, but don't worry, she passed. And I was like, well, you never proactively offered her this.
Right.
So, that's annoying, but there are these discounts, right? So sometimes it literally could take you like 1 minute or 5 minutes to write an email to them and just ask. And that's just with your existing company. It takes a little bit longer. I will say I spent like a few hours dealing with finalizing these quotes and like really comparing making sure I was comparing apples to apples in terms of the services and the prices and all that. And there are brokers and sites that can help you. I just really wanted to like do this with USAA. And so I would just, remind you all that you have the ability, and it can't hurt to ask, and it can't hurt to shop around a little bit. It can't hurt to talk. It not only can't hurt, it can only help you to talk to some friends and neighbors about this, because if it doesn't help you, it might help them.
Yeah, like it's helping me today.
Exactly. Yeah. And even just doing that one with USAA, moving from Allstate to USAA, it gave me a little pep in my step and like dopamine hit to be like, okay, I know my internet rate has been creeping up, and like I need to, and our internet's kind of been like sucking lately also. Like right now there's a very pixelated view of you, Erica. And I'm pretty sure that's on my end, not your end, because we've just had a lot of issues lately. Okay. So it motivates me more to actually do more of this. So I like it's like habit stacking of, as soon as you get a win here, you'll like use that momentum to go figure out, like, go look at your next bill and say like, oh, well, what's that one look like? And again, like make a plan to sit down with some friends one night and like talk about this, or just text a friend real quick. It takes 2 seconds.
Bills become out of sight, out of mind. And so you kind of forget what you're even paying until you look at that and you're like, what? Like, or if you see an ad on TV and they're like, yeah, we could get you this cell phone deal for this much. And you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm paying double that. Like you just kind of forget about it. And that's where like, that's another way that they get you.
Yeah. So I think in closing, just remember, like, to Erica's point, like a lot of times these things are all on auto pay and we kind of forget about them. And even if you're tracking your expenses, you may not be comparing them to other people, and you may not like us have a, twice a year where you get on a podcast recording with some friends to compare your expenses. Though you can just come and listen to our expense review episodes for that. Remember that you have other options, right? Like monopolization is actually illegal, right? Like in the US, it isn't a crime to be the only company in town. However, it is illegal to use that power to unfairly crush competition or prevent new business from entering the market. And as a result of that, there often are not monopolies in a lot of things, right? Like the government even stops certain companies trying to buy other companies because of that. And so remember, you usually do have other options, right? Even if sometimes there's only like 2 internet players in town. There's rarely only one. And now there's all these like internet over cell phone that you can do, like these 5G things. And so there's just like always new technologies and different things coming out. And I think my last thing to remind people with is, I think some people don't want to do this because it makes them like people don't like to negotiate, back to that term. It makes them uncomfortable. It's not their thing. I actually negotiation was my favorite class in business school. It was like, I really love the concept, and I kind of like it, but I get that that's not normal. And I just want to remind people, like, you're not being annoying. You're not like, for anyone who has something where they feel awkward doing this, like reframe it to, you are being a steward of your capital and your money. You are more proactively managing your money and protecting your own future. These companies bank on your silence and you not wanting to deal with friction, right? The story you started with, Erica, of like, they're hoping that little bit of friction of you having to like reset your password and deal all this, you'll just be like, whatever, forget it, right? And deal with the friction. You're not being annoying. You are doing what you should be doing. And I just want to like give you guys the push of love you need to like go do this.
Yeah, and I'll just end with this to cap onto that is, I think this is part of the game now. I think companies expect this, that you do bounce around. There is no loyalty anymore. You don't stay with the same cell phone provider for 10 years. Like, you're going to switch around because that's how you get the deals. So just look at it as like a fun game. You're not being annoying. You gave them the opportunity to give you a lower rate. If not, you have to sometimes be willing to walk, or like Maggie said, just hang out and be like, whoops, got disconnected. And then you just go on life as usual, but that's all part of the optionality of this.
Yeah. And if the rep on the phone is giving you a hard time about it, be like, look, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah. I mean, say that, and in an accent, maybe a fun Southern accent.
Pretend to be Tina McDougal. Be like, I'm Erica's assistant, Tina McDougal. I'm calling to renegotiate her bills for her.
There you go. Have fun with it. Pretend like you're your own personal assistant and come up with a really fun name, and then let us know what your name is.
Erica, when I get sales calls and I'm not sure, I like answer my phone and then I realize it's a sales call and they ask for Maggie, I'll be like, oh, she's not available right now. Could I take a message? And then they're like, this isn't Maggie. And I was like, no, this is not Maggie. And I'm just like, what? I could have an assistant answering my phone. Like, don't judge me. You don't know me.
Yeah,
I do it all
I
the
like
time.
it.
It's great. And usually sometimes it'll be like someone doing fundraising even. And they're like, oh, well, you could just let us know if she could call the Red Cross. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's why I like to answer the phone like this if I don't know who it's going to be. Hola. Throws everybody off.
My kids now think it's fun to like answer the phone in funny voices. Every now and then it's actually like a serious call. And I'm like, oh, sorry, my bad. Okay. On that note, we appreciate you all listening. I love episodes like this because I hope it actually helped you to save some money like tomorrow. And so on that note, I hope it did. And I hope it encourages you to also share this episode with a friend or family member so that they also can save some money tomorrow. And if you guys want to leave us a review, because you saved some money, we would appreciate it.
We encourage you to share this episode with a friend or family member to encourage ongoing discussions about money. You can also subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you. And you can leave us a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370 or hit us up on Instagram.
Okay, there's a way we're going to have to end this episode, Erica. Do you know what it is?
Singing Automobiles.
Yeah, can you pay my bills? And then I also was reading and I was remembering the beat that it's like, if you did, then maybe we could chill. I don't think you do. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the beat?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the bridge.
And me are through.
Okay, there
now
it is.
Now you've been maxing out my card, gave me bad credit, buying me gifts with my own ends, haven't paid the first bill, but you're steady heading to the mall. You trifling, good for nothing type of brother. Silly me, why haven't I found another? I'm just giving you some quotes from this, okay?
Some DC for the win.
Can you pay my bills? Can you pay my telephone bills? Do you pay my automobiles? It says automo, not even mobile.
I know, automobiles.
Oh, I get
That's
it.
The
like
best
mobiles.
part of the whole song.
Oh my God,
yeah.
I just
automobiles.
Got
like
oh
automobiles,
God,
automobiles.
I'm sure I knew that, but I just seeing it in writing was like, it took me a minute. If you do, then maybe we could chill. I don't think you do. So you and me are through. Don't worry. I'm not breaking up with you, Erica. We'll be right back here next week.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Erica.
Well, thanks, Maggie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.
Bye.